They must not have a forum. Like, I don't know what's going on.
With these chapters. So if anybody has anything specific or changes that need to be made, yeah, go ahead, speak up. I did run through it earlier today. Ruth and I discussed some comments that I came up with. A couple things I think are pretty minor. One of the questions that I had that we talked about was on page. Let me ask everybody, do you want to go with the little page numbers up on the top right, or do you want to go with the big page numbers down on the bottom right so everybody stays on the
Let's go with the
page?
big at the
page
bottom.
numbers? Okay. All right. So page 11 of 83, section 7-030C, we're talking about using suitably durable materials. What's considered a suitably durable material. So I'd recommend perhaps we define that, what that might look like, what could be allowed in there. What else did I have? I know I had a few things. page, sorry, that's on page 11 of 83, section 7-030C. Yeah, where all temporary signs shall be constructed using suitably durable materials.
Is there sort of because it would be hard to make a list of what are
it kind of is. I mean, there's so many materials out there for so many different things that it's hard to pinpoint everything. Another option would be changing the language to read a little bit stronger to say, you know, you want something that can withstand the weather, the sun, wind, whatever, something that's not going to, after 2 days of being sitting out, going to, you know, rot away or start ripping and that kind of stuff. Now, with that said, I mean, is it possible to accommodate everything with the storms that we get here? No, but I think it can probably be a little bit tightened up just to.
so say something like all temporary signs shall be constructed that are able to withstand rain.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, we can look at some better language that could go in there reasonably.
Yeah. No.
Right. Right.
To put up a temporary sign, if it happens to be, and that like some kind of wooden thing spray painted, that can be temporary, is that temporary? Spray painted with some message?
I mean, it could be, yeah, but you don't want to. I know this is kind of far fetched, but you know, it's kind of an example. Somebody comes in with a piece of cardboard that's super thick. It's say, well, it's a thick piece of cardboard versus this. Well, does anybody really want a cardboard sign put up somewhere? So, yeah.
So would language like with materials reasonably appropriate for the environment?
Yeah, I think that would
Perfect.
be something that would
All
work.
right.
The next comment I had. Because I had that temporary. So next comment I had was page 15 of 83, section 7-060. Signs exempt from this ordinance. I think it's a good idea. So down on F right there, temporary non-commercial signs expressing personal, political, or ideological messages are allowed, subject to the same time, place, and manner restrictions as other temporary signs. I think it might be worthwhile to consider other types of messages that people put out there, like when sports groups have signups for their league coming up, or now hiring signs, or I cautiously say this because there's not a better way to give an example, but we can't use this kind of language, like a church advertising a holiday service. I mean, obviously we can't say that in the code, but you know what I mean with that kind of message. You know, we have Easter services. Those kinds of signs are temporary in nature. They're kind of, my best way to describe it is in the public interest. And so I think it could be worthwhile to include that kind of sign as something in here that's temporary, that doesn't require a permit, that just kind of is a message for the public. Yeah, we could include it there. I don't think it's a big deal whether it falls under F or G. I think it could definitely fall under either one. And Ruth and I can play with the language on that and get something tightened up to send to the rest of you, see if you like that.
I guess this is another one that's
Yeah, so basically, the language would kind of look something like something in the public interest that doesn't include the sale or advertisement of wares. So basically, it's not a commercial advertisement. Yeah.
So could we possibly just undo the change that we did do for G? Because that's kind of where it went, was the community public information signs, you know, hiring and whatever? Or why did we, I don't even remember the conversation of why.
We felt, I think we felt there were two different kinds of signs, that there were signs that the town put out. and things.
Right.
But there's also signs that other, I like the non-commercial signs, and I think it just say temporary non-commercial signs. Right?
That could potentially work.
All this other thing. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
temporary non-commercial signs are allowed subject to the same time as matter restrictions and other temporary signs. And you're not running the risk of excluding
Right.
everybody from that list of
Right.
things, because you could, somebody could be like, well, does that mean, I don't know. It's really just, it's more general.
Yeah. I agree. Which page is that? Okay. 18. Next one is just kind of a minor, page 18 of 83, section 7-090 for bed and breakfast A1 and then B1, where it says no internally lit signs. I would just recommend changing that to illuminated. It flows better, sounds a little better. Simple change on that one. The height, right? Yeah. Next page, page 20. B awning 3. So if you look at 1, 2, and 4, it starts talking about signs. Number 3 there says bottom of awning shall maintain a 9-foot vertical clearance. So we want to clarify that that's the awning, or is that the sign that might be hung from an awning? Because the rest of that section talks about signs and then it just mentions an awning. I think that could be a little bit, it could throw people off a little bit. So I think it's important to clarify if the intent is to talk about that the sign or the sign and the awning, so the awning would have to be higher. What is that 9-foot vertical clearance from?
Oh.
Well, no, I mean, is it from the sign or from the awning?
Is it-
I know it's
is
from
the
grade.
9 feet from the top of the sign or not?
Right. That's the question is, I think the reason I think it can get confusing is because 1 and 2 and 4 are all talking about signs. And then number 3 just talks about an awning.
Well, if somebody had an awning on a building. How far off the ground would that awning be? In general? Usually like 15 feet. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And there's another section in here that talks about projecting signs, and that requirement is those signs have to be 9 feet above grade. So I think we want to match that with anything on an awning. So, okay. Freestanding, next section down, same page, freestanding monument signs. I recommend getting rid of the word freestanding throughout here, because it looks like freestanding and monument are interchanged quite a bit. Talking to Ruth, a freestanding sign can be considered a pole sign. So she made it sound like the town doesn't really want pole signs. So I think to help with that, get rid of any language in this section that says freestanding, make it all monument sign, and address, which is already in there, what a monument sign has to look like. And that basically becomes, your more squared off rectangular sign. And then you don't have to worry about people coming in saying, well, it says a freestanding sign, so I'm just going to put up a big pole with a sign on the top of it. Let's see. We talked about the Yeah, okay, that's where that was. Next page, page 21. Where it shows the monument sign example there, going down that section. I recommend, because I didn't really see much in here other than the table in the back, which could go pretty substantial if somebody wanted to, a overall square footage maximum for monument signs. I think it's probably best practice to look at limiting that to, I think, pretty standard, it's about 40 to 60 square feet. One of my later comments that I'll mention now because it could factor into it is allowing the potential for a conditional use permit to exceed allowable number and or square footage of signs. So we limit monument signs to 40 square feet or 60 square feet. Somebody comes in with a huge development that just wants a bigger sign, you know, maybe it's better for them to have 80 or 100. They can get that with either a variance or a sign package that gets approved through that way, or a conditional use permit or some other way. But the standard is, you know, could be 40 square feet, could be 60 square feet. I think that's something this group should strongly consider looking at or factoring into this.
So we're talking about what section are you at?
It's page 21. It's talking about it. It kind of, I threw it in with number 6 there. Maximum height of a sign and base is of 10 feet, but I know there's the table in the back that references the overall size that a monument sign could be. So it could be fit here, or it could be fit with that table, you know, not to exceed this maximum square footage unless you go through this other approval process. Just something to think about, talk about if you want, discuss.
Or this is, the off-premise commercial sign has a maximum.
Yeah, so we're not there yet, but yeah,
The monument sign doesn't have.
correct. Well, it does, but it's based on frontage, which a very large property can have a very, very large monument sign. Even if they didn't necessarily need it, they could do it.
So. Depends if the sign fee.
Which page is the sign?
37, based on linear street frontage.
Maximum size.
Well, it does. So if you have 500.
No, it's on this one. This is one of the three.
Okay, but we should probably update that one too.
Yeah, it needs to be in there.
There's a monument sign with a maximum size of a blank block.
True.
I do see what you're saying. You are correct also.
So I don't know, I assume there's some kind of a formula that's here around linear square feet to the maximum square foot sign area.
So it's 1.5 feet for each linear foot of frontage. So if you look at like either of Drake's buildings, he's got a substantial frontage. He could have a substantial monument sign. Right, but he's got nowhere to put it,
Right.
but he could.
So is it, do we adjust the formula here and then max it out somewhere?
I think you have a couple options. You could adjust the formula. You could also, you know, throw a note in there, put it in where, you know, you can have a range of size, obviously, if you hit that max, but you know, you can have a putting a formula would limit it up to the max. Like a smaller property, you know, you only have this much. Your formula gives you a 30-foot maximum monument sign. But then that next bigger property has, 400 square feet or 400 linear feet. So they can go, if the formula added up, 80 square feet. But okay, wait a minute, you can't, because you're now limited to the max of this, regardless of what your linear footage is.
I guess we did, I don't, how do we determine what we? Start there, so I'm making up a number.
Yeah, I think the best,
We don't want anybody to ever have more than 400 square feet of signage. I'm making up that number.
it actually is a lot,
Yeah,
surprisingly.
seems
It
like a
is.
lot,
It
so,
is.
Yeah,
Um,
so, as it, do we say we don't want anybody to ever have more than 200? Which is still a lot, but it's certainly less.
It is. And if they, for some reason need that much more, they come in and get that special approval, whatever that looks like.
They have to go from there.
Right. Variance, conditional use permit, something. Yeah.
I mean, do you start here then, do we use our formula that we have and then say at the linear street frontage of 200, your maximum total square footage of sign area is 250? That's just the one.
I think that is an option. Yeah.
The 1.5 is pretty standard.
It is. Yeah. The 1.5 square feet per linear foot is a standard practice for
Yeah.
that
And then
formula.
you're saying that we could wind up with somebody who says, great, I can put 750 square foot of signage.
Yeah, that's why we want to bring that maximum down. Yeah. And if you happen to have, the reality is if you have a shorter frontage, you don't need a disproportionately large sign. And so, some people might argue, well, I can't have a big sign because I only got 30 feet of frontage. Well, if you only have 30 feet of frontage, you need a 200 square foot sign. So I think these formulas do work very well on limiting that. Right.
I guess I would trust you guys.
Yeah, and we can work on some numbers and throw them out. 200, but I've seen 200 a lot. Yeah, 200 is a lot of square footage. So, yeah.
If you had a larger piece of property, more frontage, are they allowed to have 2 monument signs?
I don't think
So
that's
I've been
addressed in here.
Looking for that, and I haven't found it yet.
I think you have one.
Yeah.
Would be a quarter mile.
Yeah, so it does say 1 monument sign is allowed for each road intersection providing access to the property.
So if they're on the corner, they could have 2 because you've
One on-
got 2 streets.
Right. Yeah, they could
But
have
just
one
make
on
sure I'm
every street.
understanding.
Yep.
To me, I would trust your guys' professional opinion. What we think the maximum amount of signage. We want to try that. Areas. Process.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, if you want an answer right now, I would recommend 200, 250 at most. But we can have more discussions and throw out some numbers as well, if you guys want. Or we can go with one of those numbers. $250. Yeah, okay.
How big can a monument sign be?
So based on what we are just now discussing, it would, look at their frontage and that would dictate it, what not to exceed 250 square feet, but that's all signages. Do you want to limit that monument sign lower? 200 square foot monument sign, if somebody comes in, that's all they want to do. That's huge. So if you want to limit that, you want to limit the total to 250, including a monument sign and building signs, all of that. And then limit the monument sign itself to, I would say, best practice is like 40 to 60. 60 is still a pretty big sign. Put it in there. And so they can't, and then again, the language would say, if you need to exceed that, this is what you have to do. So allow somebody to exceed it if they want to, but with that special approval. I think that's a good way to go. So you want to see 40, 60? I know, I wish I would have thought about bringing some samples in, or some. Well, yeah, sheeted plywood's 32, so doubled that, and you're a little over 60. Or you can go in between. You don't have to do 40 or 60. You can do 50, 45, 50.
I wouldn't do 60.
The ones on 89A, like Shepley Company, give it a big year, so those.
Trying to picture.
Didn't we just approve a sign for the other one, the Chateau? Yeah, because they're gonna put it on their metal building up high. I remember that. I don't remember the size though.
That's,
It's not a monument sign, that's a
well, and then
sign
on
structure.
top of that, I mean, what size is their frontage, comparatively? I'm thinking, we're talking larger properties like Mountain Gate, right, is a huge subdivision that has monument sides with 2 accesses. How big is the monument sign that points people into Mountain Gate or Crossroads?
That sign.
Right. Exactly. That's kind of what I picture as the extreme.
And usually on a subdivision like that, you're going to be seeing a special sign package with that extra approval to get that. So it's not going to be the norm. So don't hate me for bringing this up, but what I'm trying to picture is like, Clover can chime in too, because she dealt with it. I don't know, maybe Burger King in Cottonwood is probably about 40 square feet. And that one was just recently one of the newer ones. Starbucks, probably all those signs you see right in there pushing that 40 square foot mark. So that's about the size that is. Yeah, that doesn't include the monument, the base, that kind of stuff. Yeah. It's pretty comparable. I think it's pretty comparable. 40? 40, okay.
Yeah.
For variance, there's means to get to
120 square.
if it's what you really want.
Now that 40 square feet then would be just the monument sign, not the complete.
Correct. And they're still allotted based on their frontage. There's still allotted additional signs to put up on the building,
Right.
not to exceed a certain amount, again, without special approval.
So 40
All right.
square feet it is.
Yeah. Good? Okay. Where was the next one? 25. What did I say on that one?
10 feet is for each of them.
Square feet? Oh, the square feet, right?
Protect the distance from the wall. right? So we don't have.
Oh, I thought we were talking about square
We
footage.
don't need a square footage limit either.
All right, so page 25 of 83, projecting signs. So this is where I mentioned earlier on the awning. So there is the restriction here. The bottom of the sign has to be at least 9 vertical feet to grade. So that matches that. The other thing that I didn't see, and this could fall into that linear frontage requirement on the total amount of sign you get. Just want to make sure that everybody's on the same page with that. There's no total square footage mentioned on what size that sign can be. So you could look at limiting that to a set square footage aside from the formula, because if this becomes a projected sign, then they're limited to that square feet regardless of what their frontage is. Does that make sense? So that's an option, or you just leave it alone based on the formula. But then how far out can it project to? You want to limit that. Do you want it to go 10 feet? You want it to go 5 feet? You want it to go somewhere in between? Do you not want to put a limit on it? Can't imagine a lot of people are going to project 15-foot sign, but you never know.
Well, it can't go any closer than 2 feet.
Right. But it's, do you want it to go that far kind of thing?
Yeah, we have deep sidewalk, right?
Yeah. So do you want it to be able to?
Here, I was gonna say, how far does the 10-12 sign project out? How far does the use stamp sign? How far?
Mhm.
I'm trying to think.
Right.
On Main Street over the-
Right.
but maximum.
Is that sidewalk about 8 feet wide in that area? So yeah, you get is it wider than 8?
Right.
Wow.
There used to be head-on parking.
Hmm.
So when they took out head parking, the sidewalks. were deep.
That would, that would allow you a 6x6 sign. Because it has to be set back 2 feet.
If you did 6 by 6, is that what you're saying?
I'm just thinking about how.
Yeah. That is pretty big. Mhm. That's almost reaching the monument sign max.
I don't know if you guys- I don't know. So if you picture.
Right now, there's no maximum.
So, yeah, Craig, do you have, what's yours on your 1620? Yeah. Okay. And then what about the gas station, the old gas station? Is that one? No, okay.
One thing, I don't know if you can hear me. One thing, the intent of some of these, all these different things is for it to be cumulative. So it's not like they're allowed the monument plus the projection plus the wall. So they would subtract from their total sign allowance. So that would restrict
Right.
it to some of that.
I agree. There should be a maximum for a projecting sign, just like with the monument, because otherwise you'll end up with, or you have the potential to end up with,
To use your entire allowance.
200 square foot projecting sign. And it just seems really scary.
I think,
Somebody will try it, trust me.
you know, I'll throw a number out, 20, 24 square feet, I think is fairly reasonable. I mean, yeah, you could probably go a little larger, but I wouldn't go too much more than that. And then project out 8 feet.
That keeps it, that would be the
Yeah,
2 foot off the sidewalk.
2 foot off the sidewalk. And again, like I said, you know, any more than that, they can get that special approval showing, you know, this is what we want. This, you know, as long as it obviously doesn't create any safety issues or concerns, then shouldn't be a problem.
You said 24?
Something to consider, 2024.
It sounds good. I'm just thinking if there's other signs throughout that area that are larger than that, and now suddenly we're reducing the allowable size.
And that is a problem anytime you change code that you could run into. It, you know, basically will make those legal non-conforming until such a time that they choose to take it down and try and put something else up. That's usually when it'll trigger them having to meet the new code, but definitely wouldn't be going and asking anybody to change anything that's already
No,
existing.
it's
Yeah.
just the new people coming in, they're saying, but well.
Right. Yeah. And that is something that unfortunately you have to run into sometimes.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm just trying
Yeah,
to make sure.
yeah.
Understand.
So if they wanted a larger one, would you be making a decision or the board of adjustment?
So it would depend on the language that we put in there. You know, is it going to be looked at as a variance? Is it going to be looked at as a conditional use permit, go to the planning commission, or would it be a decision that the director or designee makes? I mean, it's kind of really all three of those could be potential options.
I think you're asking, when you think about the, this here, right, first. 20. Well, you're here, you know, in downtown Parkdale, you're not gonna have one. Like, how are you gonna have one inside?
We're talking about.
Right, but these are the,
Yeah, I'm thinking about the bigger picture where sign allowance. And so I'm concerned. 24 square feet. And when you're in downtown, and you only have like that tile projecting sign. You know, I guess. Give them a little bit more.
Oh yeah, that number could be whatever. Not. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
no, for, yeah, hanging over the sidewalk,
So that would
that's a
be
big sign.
32, right? And we said monuments are 40, so reasonably comparable.
That feels huge to me.
It
Less than that.
No, I know they're lesser.
Well, how wide are these tables? They're 6 feet long. Were they two and a half? There you go.
There we go.
2.5. So
It feels like 8 feet.
Give me your tape.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, 8 feet is.
You know, that's a big sign. Especially when you hear that.
yeah.
Does it seem disproportionate?
No.
It can't be 8 feet because the sidewalk it has to be back, right?
Where are you at?
But
What
when
do you got, Ruth?
we've got large sidewalks, it would still be.
Yeah. So it's 3 by.
2.5 by.
5.
and that by 5. Yeah. I did
But
it
it's-
earlier in the day. I already did my one math calculation class earlier. 3 feet high.
and 5 feet wide.
That's
So-
15 square.
15.
15 square.
Yeah, so that's 15.
Sign.
That's a big sign.
But we're
So
sitting right here at eye level with it too. You're
Right. Right.
It's not up in the air where you're looking at it.
Turn around and look at the one up there.
That's.
So if that's 15 though, and you go back to adding, smaller.
We're also,
Well, 30
and we're
is huge.
we're
Yeah.
still limited by the
If-
frontage too. The ones on Main Street here, I mean, if you consider the parcel that row is on, those are much smaller.
So if that's 15 and one of the numbers that we threw out was 20 or 24, adding, almost 50% to something like that. Something to think about. We can run the numbers like an auction. 20, 20, anybody, 20, do I hear 24? Do I?
You stand, say. Because that's two.
32 feet wide, those lots are 32
Yep.
feet wide. That's more than half.
Right. Yeah.
Roughly 90 to 100 square feet.
48.
Right.
So
Yep,
why
that's what I was
not-
trying to compare it
Why not
to,
with
'cause-
projecting signs, just to have one standard, this is projecting signs, larger than 20.
That's what we're looking for. Yeah, that's what we're looking for. So whatever that number, whatever this group thinks that number should look like.
I vote for 24.
Sign 18
Go with 20? 24? Okay,
24, we're back to 24. I crossed that out.
final answer.
Full circle.
All right, I've written it down again, so no more changing.
All right, final answer.
Final answer.
Okay.
Murals, the next.
That way. You said murals?
Murals is next,
Okay, what page?
page 31.
All right. All right, next page, 31.
Oh, can we,
Oh,
I have a question on 30.
okay.
So you're saying that no more than 50% window can be assigned. I looked online, some towns only want that 20% or 25%. Has it always been 50% here?
I'm going to let Ruth answer that.
Yeah, I think it was some odd number. I think the 50% was the original. The more I think about it, I think it was 50% originally, which is a lot. I mean, if you look at,
Yeah.
50% or do we want something else?
that's entirely up to you guys. If you want to reduce that, I mean, all of the, I'm trying to think, I think the signage on the, spa there, I forget the name of it, next to the Virgin Cheese, that might be 25% of their window area. Just depending upon how you measure it. I'm sorry?
Or advertisements, like you see some in Cottonwood that it's a nail salon.
Mhm.
They have their name of their business,
Mhm.
but then their windows are plastered with all of the different types of brands and
Right.
doodads that they
Right,
do.
Specials and.
Is that portion
That's part-
considered
that's part
part
of
of a
signage.
sign
Yeah,
At
what,
least I would say.
advertising?
what I would say was not, is like their hours of operation, the days are open, that kind of stuff wouldn't be looked at as part of their signage. It'd be just like what is considered a sign outside is something that's being advertised.
You'll see it sometimes too with like a Verizon store, and they'll put the big kind of see-through
Mhm.
films on the windows that show the new phone coming out and stuff like that.
I would, those of you that have been here long enough, remember the lovely lady on the outside, on the newsstand? The scantily clad woman on a motorcycle in the window for years and years and years?
Don't remember that.
What is that, a sign?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
it's like a beer sign.
It's a beer sign, and it was the whole front window.
You stand for this one.
Yes.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
What is? Oh,
But they're not all advertising. It's covered as far as, yeah.
It's just pictures.
Hmm.
Let's see how the inside.
All right, so next page, 31, murals. I think there needs to be clarification, so K2. The proposed design and placement of the mural shall be approved through the design review process. One of two things is, if that's intending to mean a sign, a mural that's acting as a sign, it should probably be clarified. If not, and it's talking about just a mural by itself, it needs to be completely removed. We cannot regulate murals whatsoever if they're not considered a sign. Not something that we want to touch. Don't want to go down that road. So if I think number one kind of specifies though that, you know, unless it contains a business's name or logo, if it contains that, it's a sign and we can regulate it. Without that, we can't regulate it. If somebody just wants to paint a mural of whatever, they can.
Is that standard practice?
Anymore, it's considered freedom of speech, art, that kind of stuff. So not something we can tell people what they can and can't do. Yeah.
I think if it isn't
It-
too,
So, yeah, so the reason I brought that up is if the mural is a sign, if they're going to paint the sign, then yes, we absolutely can regulate it just like any other sign. But if they're not advertising, then we can't. And number, right, and number two doesn't specify what that is. So that's why I'm saying we need to be careful with that one. Either take it all the way out or reword it to specify a mural sign.
That's you now.
Well, I mean, you're all set. As long as it's just art.
Pretty much.
Which doesn't advertise.
Right.
you're busy. What's Becky doing this weekend?
oh boy.
If you didn't have weekend plans, you do now, right?
And that's the only scary part.
We can't. Right. Which one is that? Oh, did we skip that?
Yeah.
What was it?
We
Oh,
blew right-
oh, okay.
we blew right past
We
it.
got to back up. Sorry. We got too caught up on
Sign area.
the sign area. What page is that? Hold on, trying to find it. Oh, there we go. Sorry, let's go back to page 21. I totally forgot something. I'm sorry.
Where?
21. Sorry. We got too caught up in the monument signs. I was moving on too fast. All right. May or may not be a popular opinion. I don't know. Depends on who you are. I guess if you're a business owner, it's unpopular. Off-premise signs, I think need to be, I don't think they should be allowed.
We have no-
Except for under very limited circumstances. Because where do you draw the line? If everybody wants an off-premise sign and there's enough vacant parcels, or even if they're not vacant parcels and they just have the property owner's permission, you could see a lot of off-premise signs for a lot of businesses wherever. Now, I do think that some businesses probably lend themselves, just due to location or whatever, to maybe that they should get an off-premise sign. One that Ruth and I talked about, just, due to their location, would be kind of probably Bent River Machine. They're, way back here off the road. Somebody needs to find them. Yeah, they should have a sign right here. But if you're out here on Main Street, do you need a sign out on a roundabout just because you can have an off-premise sign? Where does it end? So just, that's my comment. That's my feelings. Just want to see what you guys think about that. Typically, I've seen off-premise signs allowed in a situation I just described, or you'll see a subdivision that might have a public park, but they want to put an off-premise sign regarding their subdivision just to get people there, if they're off the highway or off of Main Street or something, but they have a benefit to the public, and then they can have that off-premise sign. Thoughts?
I don't like it myself, I don't, too no pouch. We have signs like out in the field. I just, personally, I don't like it. I think it's,
No, I mean, we had a pretty extensive conversation about this a time or two ago. And part of it is that we have them, right? There's one coming down from Broome, the departments have one over on the roundabout, Casa, or whatever, that used to have one down here, Uber's used to have one. And that they are historically part of Puerto's culture. And so for me, I sort of lean to sort of keeping that, and obviously the signs that already exist would be allowed, right?
Right. Yeah, you would leave them there until such a time that they have to get taken down, or something happens, or they want to try and come in and put up a new one, then you basically aren't able to do that.
To me, they're part of our culture, and so I'm okay with us having, but that's just my opinion.
There's no plan to, that's the problem too. If we said, oh, we want for business.
Right.
Like, go to Rockland, like every 14, so you would not want that for sure.
Right.
Have residents.
Yeah.
We're not allowed to further.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, the Hermosios wanted to put up a sign up on 89A, and Ray Selma gave him permission to do that on his property, and then it went through the rest of the process, and we knew what it looked like and everything. I don't see a problem with that, but that's, and to me, that's part of the nostalgia of early Clarkdale. Those signs, the Sukasa and stuff like that were up on the bypass. So I'm not.
But like you mentioned, put a limit on it somehow.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe one.
But
One
we could
per-
have a limit. We could also, and I'm looking for the name for it or how we do it. But of course, we have existing ones. They get repaired. They could be, and even somebody could change names on that. If somebody wants to come in and do another one in another location, it should be by special provisions only, or something like that. In other words, you're just going to go in, now you're going to have to go publicly and have hearings and everything to make sure that another one happens. Or do we only maintain the ones that we already have?
I don't think it's. Major eyesore. I don't want it. But if you do make it a challenge. It's a chance for it to happen.
Right, and we have a better chance of really, you know, seeing what that sign is, controlling how large it gets, how many names are on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there should be parameters for it. I'm not saying it should be a free-for-all, but we have parameters here. Right?
Says separation.
But I think we can add that, we could add another bullet point that says one offsite per business, you know, so.
That's 600.
You know, I can't come in every 600 feet for the sign, there's no. You know, from Pine Shadows in, but can't put a sign every 600 feet for Smelter.
Almost there.
I like that. Almost there. 55.
There-
But I think we could put in parameters that we all feel comfortable with, and if anything, the good thing is that if something new is gonna come in, it's gonna go through this design process with town staff.
Right.
And not a public hearing. So it will be looked at. And
Right.
It'll follow, you know.
Well, and another thing that I think is good in here is number 8, where it says 50% of the signage allocated to off-premise advertising shall be deducted from the allowable on-site sign. So
it goes with your on-site.
yeah, if you're gonna put an off-site sign, you're now reduced here how much you can. So that does help as well. But well, I don't, that was in there. We can change that too.
You could like limiting it to 1 or 2 per business, because at maximum, if I really wanted to highly advertise my business, I would put 1 on each route
One on
coming in.
either one.
Maybe if you said 1, you have to limit on which one.
Where
They
they
want
want
you
it.
to.
I agree, but I mean, it's already limited to 1 per parcel and 600 feet apart.
Yeah, so you're not, the chances of somebody doing this.
So at least we won't have, you know, you're almost there.
Come on.
I'll shave, right.
Whose signs are those?
Is that
Who put those signs up?
what?
Burma shave signs.
Burma Shave,
Up
the
on-
Burma Shave Company.
Really?
Yeah.
They're so funny. Look out from the window.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so where are we at with it? What's the consensus? One per
1 per or 2 per?
business, leave the 50%?
We feel like you could have like a 20 square foot sign, only 10% of the 10 square feet come from your.
Overall sign.
Yeah, so if you put up, if you're allowed, if you're allowed a 50 square foot sign and you want to put a off-premise sign, you're now reducing what you can put on your physical location by 50%. Correct.
That makes sense.
Okay. All right, now let's keep going forward. There was one more towards the end. Oh, and that was the last one, right?
Page 33, yep.
Okay,
That's in the political signs.
okay, yes.
This is all my screen.
Okay. All right, I got one more on page 33. Political signs. Number 2. Signs may be located on private property or In public right of way, except state highways or routes subject to the following conditions. I highly recommend striking out except state highways and not touching anything to do with state highways and political signs. Trust me, you do not want to go down that road. No pun intended. Even with an IGA, and I'm not trying to speak for ADOT or on behalf of anything, this is just my experience. Even with an intergovernmental agreement that, says we can or can't control a sign on a state highway or have authority over it or anything like that. Political signs are not something we want to get involved with in that sense. Just trust me, I know from experience, because ADOT does not want to touch political signs. They got in trouble a number of years ago and they will not do it anymore. So I think it's in the town's best interest to not even put language in there that references anything to do with that.
So take out all of G.
No. Just take out part 2 right there where it mentions except state highways. Right. So where was?
So right now it says signs may be located on private property or in public right of way, except state highways or routes subject to the following. So
Yeah.
we just strike out
So-
except state highways or routes.
Yeah, that's all I would recommend on that one. And I think that was all I had in
Does
this
that
one.
mean we have to update the political sign free zone map? There we go, I got it all in the right order, because it's highlighted as a politically free zone down 89A? Or do we
Probably have to
leave
do
it there, or?
That gets a
What do we do
little,
with that?
that gets a little tricky. I mean, again, we can't, I don't know how ADOT feels about that, because
It's part of our tourism zone.
We leave it there.
that one might be
and then
okay. That one
not-
might be okay to say you can't do.
Until they say otherwise.
Until ADOT says otherwise. So maybe we could leave it in there and see what happens this next election cycle, I guess. Yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question. That's something we could look into on what that language might have to change if so. But that one could potentially stay.
But at least with the map, you have something to show. them.
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question on wind. Say you want to put up a pergola in your yard, it has to withstand, I think, 80 miles an hour wind. Is that it?
I think it's
Is
80
it?
miles.
I think
It might have gone up. We're in the middle of a code change. So it may be going up, but I know it's a minimum 80-mile-an-hour wind for 90 seconds.
The signs also have to withstand 80 or something.
Actually projecting ones.
Yeah, I've never seen that kind of language in a sign code. Usually the building code mounting, the building code will have provisions in it on what's required to mount signs like that. So we can talk with Bob and make sure, see if he's got something in there that addresses that to be sure. Yeah, it's gotta be safely mounted and withstand, that kind of stuff. I don't know what those specific parameters are, but I personally have never seen something like that in a sign code, just usually out of the building code. Yeah.
I was thinking, page 35, it says, must withstand wind gusts. How much of a wind gust? That has to do with portable signs.
Oh. All right. Anything else on signs?
Very good. We'll move on to chapter 8.
Okay.
It starts page 50.
Any glaring major comments? You want to go page by page, or does anybody have something specific? I've got a couple minor notes, just to make sure some phrasing is right. One is purpose and intent, dark sky international guidelines, just making sure that that's the right, is it dark sky international or international dark sky? It's page 50 of chapter 8 on the purpose and intent. Just making sure we identify that. Yeah, or international dark sky or something. So we'll just make sure we have the right language in there for that one.
I have a question on 81, page 81. Just holiday decorations, it says low lumen. Is there a standard for that?
Standard as far as.
What low lumen means?
Considered low lumen. It doesn't say low lumen on the package.
Yeah,
The lights, right?
we'd have to look into that one on what that might look at or look like. We could also look at fitting it in. I know there's class 1, 2, and 3 lighting, and I've seen where those holiday decorations fall under one of those classes, and so they'd be subject to those limits.
Okay.
We can make a change to do it that way. Can't. 81 holiday decorations.
On page C.
Yeah, well, we can definitely look at including it as part of a one of the class 1, 2, or 3 lighting. I've seen them placed under that before. Usually it'll fall under, usually you'd fall under the like the household lighting kind of thing, the outdoor lighting of the house. Yeah. So I think that was class. Which one was that?
Where's that table?
I gotta find that. 64. Yeah, so class 3 lighting for residential areas and community spaces.
Sorry, page number. Just call out your page number.
64 is just where it talks about the different classes and where we could throw, we could just say.
We put holiday lighting in class 3. Yeah. One of the biggest things that I noticed that I wanted to point out, and it's going to be jumping around quite a few pages.
Under the class 3, it says all pictures must be shielded. Can you have that say fully shielded?
But-
Decoration code. Oh, I got it.
Putting holiday, well,
Yeah.
so right now we have a holiday split out and it's not part of class 3. If we put holiday into a class 3 category, then they have to be shielded, but then they're not really holiday, are they?
Right, so we should probably just leave holiday out of place.
Yeah, because class 3 doesn't say holiday.
Right.
And we talked about the shop.
Low lumens. Probably something similar to.
I think there were exceptions to the fully versus partially shielded as far as which ones to use for what. That some of them could have been partially shielded.
We had this conversation a while ago, and I know there are reasons that you have partially shielded lights versus fully shielded lights. But I think if we really are going to try to work in the spirit of the dark skies, then we should have fully shielded wherever possible.
Mhm.
Like, because commercial, industrial, multiple family development, combined maximum fully and partially shielded fixtures and fixtures mounted. Partially shielded fixtures maximum. I guess there has to be, I don't know how to emphasize, really like everything fully shielded unless there's a real reason to do that, not.
Right, which usually you're going to be looking at security reasons and that. And there is language in here that talks about that. So, but even with that, you can look at putting parameters on, total amount of lumens that can be unshielded too. So,
I don't think we allow unshielded so much as it is.
Right.
It's the light fixture that has no sides on it, so the light's just.
Well, I see that you were about to keep up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that, so like shielding.
Right. I don't want to.
And it's actually calling out for main entry lighting between 200 and 800.
Usually we're talking about.
Page 70. It's the residential lighting down near the bottom.
Sorry, lumens aren't much of a challenge usually doing houses or commercial. I don't really struggle with that. What I struggle with is the temperature.
Kelvins.
Is what I struggle with. Always trying to keep it below 4,000. It's hard. It really is hard to do that. And this general lighting definition says below 4,000. I would like you to say 4,000 and below, because there are a lot of options for 4,000 Kelvin lights, but there's not hardly any that are 3,000. That's your choices. There's like there's nothing. It's a real struggle. You probably saw me struggle with all the commercial projects. There's only so many lights out there that are 3,000. You're trying to find a fully shielded light that meets compliance and still gives you that color. You get really limited.
Right.
And I don't think once it's fully shielded, that the color really matters a lot. It does a little, but you don't want 5,000. I get that's that's right. Is it 4,000 and below? I like the feel of that personally. That's
What page is that?
63.
Page 63. So just swap around, put below after 4,000 and below.
4,000 and below.
Yeah, but maybe in the future, if there's more options, a lot more options in the lower. Look at that again.
Yeah.
So 4,000 or below, how's that?
Okay. Okay. So, some of the stuff that I kind of pointed out too is, and it's going to be a little bit jumping around. So, we'll start on 65 on that part. Clarifying in that table for people who are going to be looking at this and submitting their light stuff, just maybe just make some stronger wording in there if these are combined totals or totals, if that makes sense. So combined maximum for fully and partially shielded fixtures and fixtures mounted to a building or canopy, 35,000 lumens per net acre. Partially shielded, 4620.
The last column. I'm unclear what those numbers mean.
Right.
It needs to label.
And so I think, yeah, we could definitely do that. And then, making sure that it's clear on there, do they get almost 75,000 or are they limited to 35,000? Making sure that, because I can promise you a lot of people who are going to look at this are going to think they get all of it added up. So making
So
that
it's
clear.
really total. So maybe it's a
Yeah.
total from a combination of.
Right. And then I would define net acre because that's,
So what are we gonna do about the?
What's in that acre?
Well, net acre should be in the definitions, chapter 2.
okay.
It's not like this. We don't have that. It's not. Is that an acre? Is that?
Trying to remember. It's I used to know it off the top of my head. I can't think of it right now.
Acres and acres.
But yeah,
Right. Yeah, we know that much.
If it's still gonna be confusing, I think maybe you should put an example.
yeah, we could definitely put an example. The bottom of that table, the end note number 2, motion sensing outdoor light fixture shall have an automated timer set to turn off the fixture at a time no greater than 5 minutes after the light has been turned on. What if there's continuous motion? Then if you go to the next page 67, F, effective shielding. Right in the middle of that paragraph, it says motion sensing lighting fixtures shall be properly adjusted according to the manufacturer's instruction to turn off when detected motion ceases. So it's kind of a conflict right there. One saying after it turns on, it's got to be 5 minutes. This one says after motion ceases. So I think we need to make sure and go through and address all of those instances. There was already, and then page 68, H talks about motion sensing outdoor light fixtures shall be fully shielded. And then page 69, P, security lighting talks about motion sensor requirements and kind of just
I'm sorry, where are you?
page 69.
Mhm.
P1 talks about motion sensing, just making sure all this language matches so there's no conflicts and issues. The other thing I've noticed going through this also, so if you go back to page 67F, effective shielding, all light fixtures, including security lighting, except street lamps, shall be aimed or shielded so that the direction of illumination shall be confined to the property boundaries of the source. One thing I noticed going through, and I didn't mark all of it because I was kind of in a hurry, is I've seen a couple instances where it's mentioned that it should be confined to the property it's on, which is, I think, what everybody probably wants. But I've seen some of the language say that it should be, not that it has to be, but it should be as much as it can be. And that language conflicts with itself. Like you can have a little bit of spillage here, but then you get further in, you can't have any. So my lights can't go onto Craig's property in certain places that you read it. Other places, yeah, I can light up your property just a little bit.
Is it realistic to have just your lighting should stay on the property, period?
The only time I could, but the only time I could see where spillage would be appropriate is in a security situation, right?
Right.
Where you're close to a parcel boundary, but you still want to make it lit enough where there's no safety issue. And then it might spill because you're trying to make sure that that far corner is lit.
To answer your question, I mean, it is possible, but for certain industries or businesses, it becomes very difficult. It can be, depending on what their use is, like, Circle K comes in, they're going to have light that's probably going to spill off their property a little bit. Is it something they can control, and what does that look like? Or if it, creeps, I mean, we don't obviously want it spilling into the next property, lighting half of it up all night. But, if you go to the edge of the property and there's a little bit of light, is that okay or not?
Yeah.
So I just think we need to go through it and just find that language, that conflicting language, and go one way or another with it.
That was before my time.
Well, then maybe I just asked you if you were here. When you're on the property, it seems like most light stays on the property, but when you drive up the bypass, because the road is lower than the Dollar General, that light does wind up coming off of the property. And so it's kind of, it's great. I know the grades can make a difference, so I guess for me, this is probably not possible, but, well, I guess trying to say to people that their light should stay on their property. And if you have fully shielded lights, then that's the best, that's the most effective methods to making sure that we get as close to that as possible. Like that feels, because I'm like, well, unless the grade of the property next to you is lower, and then you have to build a check, it's not like that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, in the Dollar General instance, if those lights were maybe a little more shielded, then it probably would stay on the Dollar General, would come out and blind you as you're coming up.
Yeah, so for example, looking back on page 64, if you look at class 3 lighting, it will go carry over to page 65, but class 3 lighting says all fixtures, it starts on 64. Lighting in these areas must be designed to minimize glare and light trespass into neighboring property. So that uses the word minimize. Whereas later on, like I mentioned, it says you can't at all. So that conflict exists within here. So we need to fix that and go either minimize or fully, you have to make sure you don't spill whatsoever on somebody's property. Right. Yeah. I think, right. I think that's reasonable. Yep.
If somebody had,
Yeah, the shielding definitely helps.
if somebody had an issue, a neighbor had an issue, they went to the person they wouldn't do anything. What would they do to get recourse?
They'd file a complaint with the town and we would look into it and address it.
They go to you?
Mhm. Yep. I know we kind of jumped around a little bit. That's the comments that I had for most of it. What do you guys think? What do you guys see in here?
174 is talking about service station canopy lighting. What page?
74?
And so
Which you
Oh, I
said
see.
74?
74, It's
Oh,
sort of standard
oh,
over
okay.
on 73, but
Okay.
so number one, we use the word should a lot, which worries me because we can't really enforce a should.
Should be shall.
Right. And then it says warm tone, but we're not defining the actual kelvins of what is warm. Right. So we want to make it all the same, which it is the same 4,000 and lower on the next page too. So, I mean, that all,
I think we could also get rid of warm lighting enhances visibility and reduces glare.
right. And that's my thing is we were taking a lot of the frou-frou, reasoning and, out of it. But that also goes for the purpose and intent at the very beginning of the whole thing, the whole chapter article is that we have a whole paragraph dedicated to the why we're doing this when it's code. And then 3 is the same way where it should, and we really can't. And how do we enforce energy efficiency to begin with? I mean, yeah, it's nice, but in the reality, they have to pay the APS bill.
But it's the LED lighting, they're not gonna put in incandescent lights. I mean, requiring LED lighting certainly helps with energy efficiency now.
I get it, but
Pictures shall utilize energy efficiency, is that changing? Versus should.
right. I mean, it's a should. Do we want to enforce it? And if so, then we need to change it to shall. Or- Right. Because otherwise, Circle K could have a lot of different things and I can't enforce none of it.
Is this the only section that you notice shoulds?
That's the only thing I saw, but I didn't go back and reread it after I found it either, so.
Yeah, we can run through it and find any of those.
Full
shoulds
F
and
later is
make sure.
a fun thing.
Yeah, so
Toward the end, I'm 74, so I have no idea. Okay. More. Yeah. And then 75 parking lots, the recommended lighting levels are as follows. With another should in uniformity.
Is it recommended?
I don't know. Parking lots 3.
Yeah, it should be the fixtures shall do such and such.
Change that to required, change recommended to required.
Yes.
Okay. So we make that change on recommended, change that to required.
Makes sense.
We go over talk about. Virginia, this one's for you. Section D, street lighting. Clarkdale Engineering Design Standards and Specifications for New Infrastructure. Can we just call it Engineering Design Standards and Specs?
Whatever you want. And then I'll label the chapter appropriately since we're writing it right now.
There you go. Let's just shorten that up.
And my question is so let's say you have a subdivision or coming in, right?
Mhm.
And they want to put street lighting in.
Mhm.
Who dictates what's street lighting is required for safety purposes? And then if we're directing them under this chapter to conform to a certain set of specs, because we're having a debacle with some street lighting and the dedication of it or the not, is it really required in Clarkdale to have street lighting in a subdivision? Because if we're requiring it, is the town eventually going to have to take over all street lighting? Or is that on the subdivision to maintain an HOA, even though maybe they have no other purpose to have an HOA, except for to support the street lighting that they wanted. I mean, you see what I'm saying is that I don't know how the two codes are gonna work together, and what does Clarkdale require, especially if we want to have dark skies? Are we gonna require streetlights? Well, maybe we have to because of safety. How did the three play together?
Yeah. A lot of that comes into development agreements, and, you know, like you mentioned, are the streets going to be dedicated? If
But-
so, I would say your engineering standards are going to specify if streetlights are required or not. I know it can be in here, and that does get tricky. If the town truly looks at going dark sky, like officially becoming dark sky designated, then we'd work with the International Dark Sky Internet, whatever their name is now.
Right, them.
To find out what they say on that and,
So you
and what
want
they
us
would
to
look like.
define all of that in our standards?
I
in
think
code?
in your standards, you would define if you want streetlights and to what extent. And then if so, these standards apply to the lighting that's put out by them. Does that make sense?
Right, well, the standards are all gonna have to match. whether
Yeah,
it's
your standard,
here-
yeah, but your standards would just be like, if you're gonna put up a street light, it has to meet, you know, this height, spaced out this many feet, whatever.
But we
And then the
wanna-
lighting part of it comes out of here.
But we wanna have the discussion when we go through town code as far as the requirement for streetlights or not.
So-
Yeah, because I'm just
Right.
curious right now is, I've never thought about this before, is the historic district the only part of town that has streetlights?
I think so. Other than the ones in Mountain Gate.
Is there any crossroads?
Are there many in Mountain View?
Crossroads, I don't recall,
They're minimal.
honestly. So there is an entire field of, and there's an entire field of lighting design. There are lighting design engineers, there are electrical engineers, and those are the ones that say you need it for this density of people, you need this many lights, you need them here, they need to have this many foot candles and this, they will shine light this big around. So that's really where the regulations for street lighting comes. And it is, like Virginia mentioned, largely based on safety more than anything else. So that kind of thing would be addressed in the engineering code rather than planning and zoning.
And then-
Well, and you got some on the,
Does each
eight-
space have their
No, Mingo Shadows,
Is
they
that-
have weird ones. Like,
No,
they're not-
Lighting
NEC,
standards?
the National Electric Code,
As opposed to
and
the-
then there's lighting standards. I'm sure there's standards for everything. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. All I can think of is ASHTO right now. It's the American Association of State Highway Transportation Officials.
They've been transferred back and forth between various entities. So it's hard to say who really owns them and did we require them as the town? And I mean, so that's where this conversation comes from, you know?
anything else?
I don't have any other comments on my end on this one.
One
Because I
other,
think the biggest thing, the biggest thing I noticed is making sure we get a lot of that language matching throughout, not make it conflict, make these changes that we talked about. Sorry.
I found one other weird little thing that's, I don't know. 79 at the bottom. Community Development Director is not authorized to grant more than one temporary permit and one renewal for the same project within one calendar year. Which I find it weird that we don't leave an avenue for someone to get what we call it, a variance. But then on top of that, it kind of contradicts the next sentence about temporary construction projects may be extended at the discretion of the Community Development Director up to a time that it is reasonable complete the project.
Another reason why we're doing this.
Yeah.
I don't-
Yeah.
I don't know what the right is, but
Leave the temporary construction projects may be extended at the discretion of the CDD up to a time that is reasonable for project completion. If it were me,
Yeah,
I mean, it's up to you.
yeah, no, I agree, based on all the factors of, you know, how long that looks, what that timing looks like, is it reasonable? Are they making progress? Are they actually doing something?
Well,
I think all those factors would be considered on that.
yeah, I mean, Newsstand is a good example. They waited 8 months for their service panel.
Yeah.
So,
That was quick.
yeah.
Compared to
that's
what it's
quick.
been.
are there other scenarios where that could happen that's not a construction project? I mean, construction is really easy because especially, you know, since we've seen so many delays in parts and things. But would there be a reasonable reason to need more extensions in a year or for something else?
I think it's so hard to, you know, super case by case kind of thing, depending on the factors and what it is. It's really hard to say what that could look like.
There's always an exception to the
Yeah.
rules.
We need to
Yeah.
go back.
Which is why-
Once you think of everything, the
Something
one
new
thing you
comes up.
didn't think of comes up.
Right.
Yeah,
Or they invent something new.
right. Right.
And they go, hey, you don't regulate this. This we really need to rewrite because it's,
Temporary. Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty strict, 30
Yeah.
days, blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, we can move that one.
Clearly somebody ran afoul of it.
So we, some of the other chapters we've gone over, so the community development director or designee. So that's where that applies. You've gone through this and written that in.
Yeah, it'll be included wherever it's mentioned to make it all uniform.
Anybody, anything else? Wrap that up. So future agenda items. What are we gonna cover on the next week?
The next one we'll review, we'll go over made in chapter 8 after tonight, so we'll do that real quick in review, and then we'll discuss chapter 9. Is next.
And we'll have to bring chapter 7 back for final approval so it can go to planning commission. The committee, this committee needs to take action on approving that. So we'll bring that one back also.
Which one?
Chapter
Chapter
7, the signs.
Oh,
So we'll be bringing back a final red line.
And will we get a clean copy with that as well?
Yes.
Yes.
we'll get that a couple days ahead of the meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
I will promise to do better.
Okay. All right. well,
All right.
do I hear the motion to adjourn?
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned.
Go outside where it's warm. Actually, I want to do it.
And I may be in on Thursday, I may work from home.
Okay. Well, if you're in on Wednesday, can we sit down and just kind of go over a few more things?
Sure, what else?
Just, I don't know. Just random stuff that's like, hey, can we look at this and this and this and that and this and that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. no
Just
problem.
random questions I have written down in my office.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have a problem.
And can we get a rain check? I know we're supposed to talk about going to get a drink tonight. I have one. Do a rain check, we will do it. We will do it.
Sure.
No, we will, just I need it. You need it. I promise.
Next Wednesday.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
And where was that? Where did you do that? What state?
That was I roughly, in California.
All right, well, I will talk to you later.
In fact, to go to that school.
Oh, good, just in time for me to go home. Well, they just put some vision here.
Oh, going down the road.
Up down the railroad.
You live in Prescott?
Chino Valley, a little bit north of Prescott.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
You go over the Mark Mountain, this time it's dark, isn't it?
It's, I'll tell you, the most terrified I've ever been in my life is like the first year I was here. We had a late meeting, it was getting cold, and it was raining, and I'm like, I can find one. It's so dark, there's no stars, there's no moon, there's nothing.
Did you notice the skid marks that went on to?
Yes, I'm like.
You know anything about that?
No, I didn't.
There's a section with no guardrail, there were skid marks that just.
Right out there.
Right off there.
I do know it is.
Coming in tomorrow?
And, no, like you have to stay here, like, you guys are like, us people, it's not coming in here.
Hi. Hi.
Oh.